I'm Adam.
And I'm Adrian.
And welcome to Cast from the Crypt. Adrian, what are we talking about today?
Terrifier 2.
Terrifier 2.
The second one.
The sequel to the infamous Terrifier.
The one I'm pretty sure we swore in a previous episode we would never watch.
Yeah, I think this is the quintessential experience of us doing this. This is like 0,00, you know? This is what we do. We review this movie.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes. Well, before we talk about our opinions, let's give a little context, just in case.
Of course.
The year was 2017.
It was definitely like at least 2018.
It was my freshman year of college.
I think it had to be 2018.
Are you sure?
I graduated in 2018.
Anyway, maybe 2018.
Okay.
We had heard about this movie called Terrifier. Was it your idea to watch it or mine? Who's to blame?
It was definitely your idea.
Okay.
I hadn't heard of it.
I had heard about this movie. I really, really, really started to get into horror late into high school. Maybe like actually sophomore year of high school, I started to get into horror. I was a late bloomer. And the grindhouse genre was something that fascinated me, but also still kind of scared me early in college. I hadn't really seen any other grindhouse movies, and I wasn't familiar with the subgenre, and so I didn't know what to expect. But I heard that Terrifier created this sort of classic slasher character. It had this goal to create a character akin to the guys like Jason, right? Like Michael, like Freddy, a new classic slasher that could exist in that realm. And since it was billed that way, or at least sold that way to me personally, I thought we should watch it. And so we did on that one night in my dorm room. And we both hated it. Terrifier is directed by Damien Leone. The first movie was very, very low budget. So low budget, in fact, it was about $35,000. I don't believe it had a theatrical release that year. It had come out in 2016. I should provide some context. And it was centered around this character, not named Terrifier, as the title might suggest, but named Art the Clown. And Art the Clown kind of rose in popularity from this 2013 horror anthology film called All Hallows Eve, also directed by Damien Leone. And this was a spin-off, right? Anyway, we hated the movie. We talked about it on a dead show, and right, we did, right?
Yeah, that was forever ago.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of been like the butt of a joke for us for years now. We've really bonded over our hatred of that first film, and yet here we are talking about the second movie, 2022's Terrifier 2. That's my cold open for this.
That's a great cold open. There's so much to be said. I have no clue where to begin with this movie.
Me neither.
Okay, I'll begin with this. My first thought when we decided we were going to watch this, I have never, on any form of talking about movies with you, I've never dreaded watching a movie more than Terrifier 2. It was Friday night, and I was like, man, I gotta watch Terrifier 2.
I gotta agree.
Hated to think that I had to do that. But you'd texted me, and you'd seen it, and you were saying it was crazy. And wow.
I mean, did I deliver there at
No,
least?
yeah, it was. It is Terrifier 2. It's Terrifier plus. It's Terrifier, but more.
If you want to, buddy, what were your chief criticisms of the first film? Because I think it'd be helpful to kind of discuss what we disliked about the movie and maybe talk about what improvements we saw, or more of the same garbage that we saw in the first movie.
Well, what you're hinting at there is exactly what I thought happened. There were a lot of improvements, and a lot of the things wrong with this movie were the things wrong with the first movie.
Yeah, I agree. The first movie for me, there's a few things I really hated about the movie. There was a lot of criticism about it being transphobic. There was a certain death in the movie that Art the Clown, I believe, wears a woman's breasts and like dances around in a mirror, and it also received a lot of criticism from women in general and men, of course, that saw this
'Cause
uh,
of
this
course it did.
streak of this streak of really mean-spirited kills, completely geared toward women. I'm never gonna revisit that first movie, but I'm pretty sure everyone that dies in it is a woman, except for like one guy or maybe two guys, and the women just have the most visceral, aggressive, hateful deaths. And it really is, neither you nor I are very sensitive when it comes to these movies, when it comes to horror in general, but there really was something so heinous about the first film. Something that it did not feel fun to me, right? And watching Art perform these acts wasn't as fun as it is watching Jason or Freddy or any of those guys that he's kind of molded to be. And I don't know, I think that's why I didn't connect with Terrifier 1. That paired with an abysmal, almost non-existent story, and maybe still the worst character work I've ever seen.
And
And
acting, of course.
yeah,
Goes
right,
without saying,
right.
though.
So, right. I'm sure we can agree there, and so you and I like hated that first movie. The second one, on paper, has a lot going for it. Okay, it's got a budget nearly 10 times what it had the first go around, and it had a theatrical release. And now, of course, Terrifier 1, to both of our surprise, received a serious cult following, and the sequel was released at Fright Fest and did theaters here in the U.S. recently, October of 2022. Not so long ago, and it did really well in the box office. It had this big base of fans that went out and supported it. You and I were not among them, but now it's like streaming free on Prime Video. So
yeah, I'm kind of sad that this bone wasn't thrown to Tubi, because we're Tubi shills here.
yeah, we are. We are. Frankly, Terrifier 2 deserves Tubi.
I think so too.
Maybe that's being mean to Tubi. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'll start. I'll say this right out the gate. I did not abhor this movie the way I did the first one.
Okay. I think I agree there.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I actually saw a lot of potential in it, which is something I did not say in the first. I mean, literally the only compliment I can give the first one is that Damien Leone is a fantastic makeup artist. And I guess David Howard Thornton is really good as art. And that's it. I mean, I think that's the only positive thing I can say about that first film. This film, it really feels like a film. I mean, there is a attempt at a pretty robust story here. There is an attempt at some serious Art the Clown lore. There are, in my opinion, some actual interesting and kind of dynamic character moments in this story that were non-existent in the first one. There is a developed character, actually a developed family of characters in this film. And no, like not as fully developed as I would like any character to be, but they're there, right? And there's an attempt. And so I saw a lot in this second movie that I just didn't see in the first, and that I didn't think it was capable of. And for that, I'm shocked. And I'll give it a pat on its little back. I'm still not going to call myself a Terrifier fan, though.
Okay, that's fair.
Give me your quickie review.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. Terrifier, the first movie, felt like a proto movie. Like it was just a long video. It wasn't like a movie. And this movie feels like a proper, like, okay, someone tried to make a movie about this character, but it's a slasher and it has a plot, And that's why it's better. That's what it has going for it. However, a lot of the same sins. This is also a movie I could never recommend this movie, like in good conscience, to anyone.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get into the plot, which is, I wish it was simple.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
But you can't recommend this movie. I watched it with, my fiance, and
Bless her. God bless.
yeah, she hadn't seen the first one. And for someone, especially that's never been exposed to grindhouse horror, this is a insane movie. I mean, it feels like a movie made by an insane, not well, sadistic person. It does. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I could never imagine wearing Art the Clown on my shirt. I have a Jason Voorhees shirt that I wear proudly and that I'm okay with wearing, and that people don't look at me like I'm a sadistic, evil person for wearing it, because Friday the 13th, overwhelmingly, is a fun movie. Or a fun franchise, I should say. It's fun. You have fun. They're dumb slashers. This movie makes you feel gross. And if it doesn't, I do not want to get to know you at all.
You're so
Like,
right.
if this movie, if like you celebrate the kills in this movie or in these movies, this franchise, you are sick, right? I mean, it got some chuckles out of me, but not because I was like, oh, that's fun, but because like, wow, this is still going. This girl is missing an arm, her face, her scalp, her intestines are out. She's got like her arm shoved into her stomach. Her tongue's been ripped out, but she's still, yelling. And it's been 5 minutes and a half. Like, that's why it made me laugh. Because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Oh my god, yeah, it is.
That said, visual effects just as good as the first one, if not better. Really,
they're definitely better. They're not like consistently like the most realistic thing, but they're not gonna be because of just how absurd all the gore in this movie is. And so for this like haunted house of a movie, it's like Phobia. It looks good, I guess, for what it is, for what it's trying to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm cool just like saying I think it looks good. Of course, it's so out there.
Yes.
One of the kills in the movie, a girl, I believe, has her scalp cut off with like sewing scissors, and then it's like ripped off, and her brain is just out, and we get full frame action of her screaming, brain exposed. Her arm gets ripped off. And we see all of it in frame. And for a movie that dares to do that, right, that dares to have all that stuff in frame, I say it looks good, right? Because I've never seen anybody like ripped open before, and I imagine it's kind of like that.
I imagine this is like a well-performed version of what you might see in like Saw 6. I haven't seen Saw 6.
Sure.
But I'm sure that they like it's like that.
So
can I say something first?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Please.
So I have watched, to my just deepest regret, honestly, I have watched all 3 of these movies. I've watched Terrifier 1, Terrifier 2, and All Hallows Eve, the movie in 2013 that is a series of little vignettes, the first instance of Art the Clown. And it is just so low budget, most of the vignettes are just so terrible. Yet there's this one character, Art the Clown, and he is in all the vignettes at some point or another. He's like this unifying character, pretty much exactly like what Sam does in the Trick or Treat shorts. And then Terrifier came out, and it's about Art the Clown. It's a whole movie about Art the Clown. And it feels like Damien Leone has taken this character, who was just a design, just a concept, not even given his own full story, and he's taken it and slowly evolved it into a whole legitimate movie, and now it's looking like a whole franchise. And that has been novel to see. However, Art the Clown's got a great design. I will say that, like, A+, A1. There's no wonder they slap him in all of the All Hallows Eve shorts, because he looks cooler than anything else you're going to see in that movie. He's very iconic. That's why there's shirts of Art the Clown. But he's not much more than this design and this behavior, this like art, this clown persona. And that's my biggest problem with him, is it's like, what is he here for? What does he do? He's just doing stuff,
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
no,
they're trying, right?
yeah.
Kind of like bio for this movie specifies after being resurrected by a sinister entity. And there's actually no mention, right, of the entity in question. I read a little bit about this, and I read I mean, what do you call that?
The
Synopsis, I
synopsis,
guess.
yeah.
But like it's like the tagline before you like watch them. And I was looking for that, right? But it doesn't really give us anything about that quote unquote sinister entity. The opening of the movie shows Art putting his brain back in because in the first movie he shoots himself in the head and does come back to life after shooting himself in the head. But they don't specify in the first movie what's bringing him back. They don't specify in the second movie what's bringing him back. And there's a lot of cryptic dream sequences, a lot of cryptic mythic like lore being peppered in throughout the movie, making you wonder what Art is, but it's not particularly well done or detailed enough to really make you go, "Oh, this is where they're going." And so yeah, Art feels really uninformed and still kind of half-baked. I believe Damien Leone is trying to really build up this character of Sienna that he introduces here in the second film. But yeah, there seems to be some sort of tie between Sienna, her late father, and Art the Clown. And I guess it's something that we're not going to understand until the third movie comes out, which, like, ugh.
I know.
There's also this really random little girl. She's so raw XD. Like, I don't know how else to describe her. Like, she's very, I don't know. She's very off the cover of an MCR album. Like, I don't like it. She's in the Black Parade. Her.
Okay. Well, lay off her for a little bit, first of all. Lay some respect.
You're right.
Yeah, those are great criticisms. Like, for your slasher franchise, you need the slasher to be the centerpiece. We are not watching Friday the 13th for any of the camp counselors. We're watching it for Jason. That's why we're engrossed in this franchise. You have to have the slasher built up before you can have any of the main characters of any of these movies, before we care about them. And for a franchise that should be about Art the Clown, we don't learn much about him at all. And it's underwhelming because of that. Like, the first Friday the 13th movie is just a drum roll. The entire movie is a drum roll for when we get Jason later on. You know, the first Halloween movie is the first hour of that movie is just hyping up Michael Myers like he's a lunatic, he's gonna kill you. And here, there's Art, there he is. And he's doing what he does because he does it. And that's it. And I want to know more. And he keeps like kind of gaining powers too. And you're like, oh, why can he do this? In the first movie, you discover he's kind of immortal at the end of the movie. And like, that's kind of a reveal. But here he just has a bunch of random abilities. And I don't know why. Like, we never understand what he is, what he can do, or what he wants, what his purpose is.
Yeah. And I presume the point of the movie and the point of his brutality is that there is no point, right? It feels very nihilistic, and it feels like Art kills.
He kills for his art, of course.
Right, right. And, he kills for fun. He's a clown. He thinks it's all funny. He laughs over and over again. Silently, of course, because he's also a mime. But outside of that, there's no real purpose. But it's not done well like it is with Michael Myers, where he is evil incarnate. And that is why he kills.
Yeah, exactly.
He's motivated by evil.
His pointless evil is explained away, Like, the center of this movie, because he's so purposeless, then ultimately this franchise is also purposeless. What are the stakes? Why do we care about him?
And so, why are we making this extra lore? Right? Like, why are we creating this storyline in this world, right? Let's talk about that a little bit. So this movie takes place right after the events of the first movie, which the events in the first movie are called the Miles County Massacre.
I think it's a year after he escapes, I guess.
See, it's odd, right? Because, yeah, it feels like some time passes, but also we watch Art leave the scene of the first film.
And then I think a year passes. Because the first film takes place on Halloween, and so does this one.
Okay, so they say a year passes.
I think so.
Okay, okay, okay.
It would
I was
only
a
make
little
sense
unclear
if a
on
year
that.
passed anyway.
Okay. Well, he, he goes, he cleans himself up at a laundromat, and we meet this like new familiar that he has. It is this little girl who is billed as the little pale girl, and she poops. She poops at him
She does.
immediately. She
That's how she's
pours black
introduced.
diarrhea on the ground. That's how she's introduced in this laundromat. Did you love it?
Okay, well, I liked it because it felt like her way of saying she can hang, you know?
God,
Like
it did.
Art opened with pooping on the walls, rubbing poop on the walls. And so she opens with "Here I am," and then just shits on the floor because she can
For
hang.
context,
Yeah.
a big critique we had of the first movie is that there's so much poop in it, like for no reason. And sure enough, there's a little bit of poop in this one.
Yeah.
Not as much as the first one, though.
No, which is fine.
Yeah. But anyway, this entity that's introduced that is kind of Art's sidekick throughout the movie. She didn't kill anybody, but she's always there. She's omnipresent, seemingly. Clearly has some ties to Art's origin. But we don't get much from her either. There really is no. I don't even think we're given a thread about who that little girl is.
Well, they say
The
she's a little girl that they imply she's this little girl who was killed in this carnival years ago.
Right. But we can't piece that together. Like what does she have to do with him? And also, that's the best we get is like a newspaper headline when this is a completely new character that you're establishing. This movie is asking for a lot of forgiveness because it's asking us to accept this new random little sidekick character without really wondering who she is, and it gives us this tiny morsel, right? Yeah, that there was a little girl that was brutally killed at a carnival. And it does the same for the other character, the main character, our protagonist, Sienna, who, is a seemingly normal high school girl who lost her father and has been working through some stuff and has a really messed up home life. But then we get this morsel about her father being a artist that has been seeing art and that like drew a prophecy about his daughter killing Art with a sword. And I mean, we're just supposed to accept that. There's no development beyond that. There's no details beyond that.
Well,
It's a very ballsy move.
can I say when they introduced that, I
Yeah.
knew. I was like, they are not going to explain this. And they
No.
didn't.
They didn't. They didn't. They did. I mean, it's a prophecy.
Yeah,
It is
no,
a prophecy.
foretells, yeah.
And that's I think what my biggest complaint about this movie lies in this prophecy, because it is a what 2.5 hour movie,
Yeah, 2 hours and 18 minutes.
all for this fruitless. Well, let me tell you, it felt like 3 hours,
Yes.
and it's all for this fruitless thing, this extra bit of lore that I don't really even think Terrifier fans wanted. Maybe they do. To be honest, I'm not in touch with that base. But like, I feel like they just want to watch Art kill, like the little sadists that they are. And so, like, why?
Yeah.
This movie is its best, in my opinion, when it's focusing on the characters it has, not this like superfluous extra storyline that they're not even developing. For me, and I don't know if you'll agree or disagree.
Oh, I so agree. I so agree.
Well, I think that what I was going to say was, I think that the scenes with like Sienna and her mom arguing and like some of their dialogue was maybe some of the strongest bit of storytelling in the movie.
Okay. Okay.
Like I actually felt something there.
You say strongest bit of storytelling. I was thinking you were going to say worst dialogue I've ever heard.
I don't think, well, compared to the other dialogue in this movie, I thought it was much better.
I don't know, man. There were some instances.
Oh, there's horrible writing in this film. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the best writing is between those two characters. I mean, that's my thoughts, because this movie is not really well written. Damien Leone, I think, is doing his best here. He is a makeup guy. That's his background, a special effects guy. And he is also wearing the hat of editor. He's also wearing the hat of director. He's also wearing the hat of special effects. And I just don't think writing is his thing. I did see some decent camera work here. I saw some decent editing here. There were sequences that I thought were really well shot. I like the film grain and I like the look of this movie, admittedly. But yeah, I just think its biggest weakness is its writing and this really robust plot. It's ballsy, as I've been saying.
Yeah.
And God, 2 hours and 18 minutes. That's just
Dude,
unforgivable.
okay, this was another huge thing for me. This movie had the gall to be over 2 hours long. It felt like 4 years watching it. 2 hours and 18 minutes isn't even crazy for a horror movie, but not this movie. This movie does not deserve that much time, and it's slow. My God, is it slow? That was a huge problem I had with the first one, too, and like, come on, just, it can be shorter. You can speed it up. That's another problem with, like, the kills I have. It's like, they drag on for so long that, like, when a good 10 minutes of the movie is unnecessary dragging on of kills, that you kind of lose interest in, because you're just watching it happen for so long, and it loses, like, any meaning after it just wasting time and being the same thing over and over. This girl screaming some more and some more and some more, and it's not good. It's not well done, and it drags on, and it makes it such a slog. Even the kills.
What about
are
it
sometimes
isn't well
slogs.
done? Oh yes, no, I agree. So much of it, the horror in this movie is a slog.
Which is
The
so
horror
tragic.
in it, yes. There's a sequence early on in the film. I think he maybe has killed one or two people at this point in the movie. But Sienna is getting ready for a Halloween party, and she is creating this cosplay that was designed by her father, this character that he designed that she wants to dress up as. And she created the wings, but they burned. She left a candle on or
And
something.
I would have. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I would say we're introduced to her character with her making these cosplay wings with like this generic background influencer music, like she's doing a makeup tutorial video, and it's foreshadowing of all the like horrible generic music that's gonna play. It feels very like copyright free public domain music.
I cringed at the very open. I thought, oh God, where are we headed with this? But anyway, she goes to buy new wings because her old ones were destroyed. And the interaction that she has there with Art, he's there. I don't remember why. And he kind of like blocks her into this little closet where she's looking for wings and accessories. And she squeezes past him in really awkward fashion. She's horrified by him because the people in this county are aware of a killer clown. The thing is it's also Halloween, and so people are dressing up as this killer clown. So she doesn't know if it's just some creep in a costume, but she clearly has a bad feeling. There's a part in this store where Art is like trying on sunglasses and making faces and performing gestures at Sienna to freak her out. And it is so painfully long. We spend several minutes watching Sienna just get scared at like different mannerisms that Art is doing. And it's not good. And, it's like maybe unsettling the first time. And then it feels like something out of a skit. It's so long. Like it feels like it's making fun of horror in a way. And trust me, this movie is not that smart. It's not making any commentary. Like it's not. Don't think it is for a second. It's not commenting on how, horror can be slow and how the bits seem to go on forever. It's not. It's just that masturbatory and ridiculous. And I get it. Like you've got David Howard Thornton on camera and so many people love him. And I guess I'll give the movie credit for that. He's on screen a lot. Like Art is the focus of this movie. If you want to see Art, you're going to see Art for 2 hours and 18 minutes. Congratulations. But for a guy like me that like does not care about this character and really it was so just not into the idea of watching this movie anyway, I don't care. The bits go on way too long. And the kills as well, like you said, the kills are ridiculously long, and he's showing off. I believe the first time, the first movie when we watched it, I said, or you said, somebody said, it felt like a makeup guy's thesis. Like it felt like it was, you know, this MFA in special effects showing off everything they could do. It felt like a portfolio for special effects horror makeup. And this movie maybe doubles down on that. I mean, it's just showing off all of the gore. And yeah, it's probably maybe the goriest movie I've ever seen. But like, can I also get an interesting story? You know?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any reason to like art other than the fact that his design is cool, and you're never really
Right.
given that. Yeah, yeah. It's tragic because like this movie did have promise. I do have to say that David Howard Thornton. I think I don't know if you noticed, or maybe if this is just me being crazy, but it feels like he got better at acting as Art the Clown. Like the mannerisms are more complex and refined. It feels like his miming is better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was
No, I
impressed
agree.
by him, if not anyone else. Also, this is dumb, but I'm gonna say it. Her friend. So this girl Brooke is once again just like another cannon fodder. She's gonna get slashed teenage girl, but I felt like her acting was so much better than everybody else's. And once again, she's just a girl who's gonna be slashed. She's not like a complex character or anything, but like for the cannon fodder, I was like, this is like perfect. She's doing such a great job of being cannon fodder, and that's a famously like you don't have to be a good actor. You can just be terrible and get killed kind of role. But she does it good. I mean, maybe no one else in the world thought that, but I liked it. I thought she did great.
No, I agree actually. I thought she did well. I think again, I would say that the friends were fine. I wasn't like offended by their existence. I think Sienna and that character could have probably been way more interesting given a better script. The problem with these movies, right, is that they're not exactly attracting big hitters, right? There's not a lot of actors that are going to want to go do this movie. Or I should say, actors that have done some serious gigs and that consider themselves serious actors. Maybe I'm an ass for saying that, but this is like the kind of movie that somebody trying to make it takes. It is. Again, it's only got a $250,000 budget. Like it's not attracting a lot of eyes. Even now, with Terrifier's growing fan base, how many people do you know that saw this movie? How many people are there that saw this movie that you know?
I don't know a single other person besides you that has seen this movie.
Exactly. Exactly. So, it's not going to bring the heavy hitters, as I said. And it shows, and it's rough, and yeah, it's mediocre acting most of the time, paired with mediocre to bad writing. And again, that shows in this like mythical thing that they're trying to do.
Yeah,
Do you want to get into that at all?
man, there's so much to get into. Yeah, let's do that.
Sienna has this brother that's troubled, and in the very beginning of the movie, when she's working on her cosplay, he is also working on his Halloween costume. I keep calling it a cosplay. It's a Halloween costume, but it just gave cosplay. But anyway, he thinks it's going to be a great idea to go or to dress as the Miles County killer, this clown, for Halloween. And Sienna is deeply disturbed by this. Their mother is deeply disturbed by this. And the reason he is so enthralled by this clown is that he discovers, and we find this out way later in the movie, but this is the reason, is that he discovers that his late father, who died tragically, do they say how he died? I mean, I know he had a tumor, right? But he killed himself too.
Yes.
He drove into a transformer drunkenly one day, but he had a brain tumor. But he was also an artist, and he had sketches of both Art the Clown and victims in his sketchbook. And that's why the kid is so into this, you know? But it's also really poorly explained. Like, why does he have the drawings? Why is there some connection? He also has a picture of Sienna in this angel guardian like outfit, holding a sword and holding a beheaded Art the Clown head. And that, of course, is the prophecy that we discussed earlier. And throughout the movie, they build this up. And Sienna is creating that costume from the sketchbook. How did you feel about the whole costume thing and like her
Uh,
being in the
the
father's
costume
sketchbook?
was weird. I like that there was a prophecy purely because I needed to know that Art was gonna die by the end of the movie.
Except he
Well,
did.
yeah, okay. Anyways, it's whatever. Like that whole part of the movie, it's like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. That's how you start off. 10 minutes into the movie, 20 minutes pass, 30 minutes pass. Eventually, 2 hours and 18 minutes of movie pass, and they have not gone any further past that surface level scratch of what that's about. Their dad saw things before he died, and that was a prophecy he's kind of soft made. But why? Why does he see Art? Why does this random suburban family have any connection to Art the Clown? We
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe we'll find out. But honestly, I don't think Damien Leone knew either. I think he was like, I'll write things that are vaguely reminiscent of a plot, and we won't
Yeah.
get detail.
Apparently, he wrote this character a long time ago, and he knew that he wanted to make a movie regarding this character, and so he decided to do kind of like a Batman Joker thing with Art and Sienna. It certainly does not work as well as Batman and Joker, but apparently that was his big idea.
Yeah. Well, this is yet another question about Art is brought up because of this. Does Art know about this prophecy? Does he know this girl is supposed to kill him? Because he seems purposeless. He seems like he's just kind of killing indiscriminately, but he also kills her family and kidnaps her brother. So, like, why is he doing that just because he's Art and he does that kind of thing? Or is he doing it because he somehow knows this is the girl that's supposed to kill him? We have no idea. There's no way of knowing. So,
And we never learn.
and we'll never
Uh,
learn. We'll never know.
and he's kind of an inconsistent character too, because throughout the movie, Art doesn't really get hurt often. He seems to be really, really strong. He's capable of things that normal humans maybe aren't. He rips the flesh. He can deglove, a person's whole arm just by pulling on the skin, right? He's capable of tearing out bones and doing all sorts of insane stuff, removing arms just with his hands. But he can also get hurt by like a groin kick or but then he also lives after being stabbed in the brain. He can put his brain back in after blowing his brains out. He's really inconsistent in general, and he also seems to get mad. There's a few points in the movie, I can't pinpoint them, where he gets hurt by another character and he gets pissed off. His demeanor changes. And that is clearly demonstrated by the acting that David Howard Thornton is doing, right? He shifts entirely. The smiley, kooky, crazy Art that we get suddenly becomes ravenous, and his posture changes. But then at the end of the movie, when Sienna finally actually gets the upper hand on him and gets into a position where she can behead him, he smiles right before she does it. And it made me wonder, is that the point? Like, does he want her to think she's won? What is it? But maybe I'm asking too many questions of this movie, which is why I'm really hesitant to discuss the prophecy stuff super in depth. I mean, it's really that vague. There's these drawings from Sienna's dead dad's notebook. She seemingly completes this prophecy by beheading Art at the end of the movie. There's really no commentary in between. It's not very clear, right?
Yeah, it's not like a story continues. It's like the prophecy is told as a this will happen, and then a movie pointlessly happens. Like events happen that don't relate to it, and then it happens, and it's like, oh, I guess it did happen,
Yeah.
and we don't know
Yeah,
why, but
exactly.
sure.
Exactly. And then it starts to feel even more pointless given this movie's ending, which just felt so stupid.
Yeah, well, let's get into that in a bit. All right, let's give like
Yeah.
a kind of rundown. We don't have to get mugged up by this plot because, not much happens really.
I feel like a lot happens, and yet none of it is important,
All
right?
but nothing. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
nothing consequential happens, you could say. First of all, we started watching these girls, it's these high school girls and her younger brother, the Shaws, Sienna Shaw and her younger brother Jonathan and her friends. It's the classic. They're going to go out on Halloween night while the slasher's out and they're going to get slashed. That's, of course, going to happen. But they go to this club and they're like drinking at the club and they're having like a good time or whatever. I was so confused by how old this girl was the entire movie. Because she lived at home, and I was like, okay, well, maybe she goes to high school. But then you see them in a school, and I assumed it was a high school, and they were like, well, we're going to go to the club tonight. And then they do. So I was like, okay, well, how'd they go to a club? I guess they're college students. Because they'd have to be old enough to, there's no fake ID. There's no, like, let's sneak in. Like, they're just in a club.
Well,
but then they keep going back to them being high school. They just say they're high school students again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, okay. They're high school students, like, because horror movie victims are teenagers, and that seems to be the only reason. And then by every other metric, they are not high school students. They don't look it. I thought this girl looked 26-ish. Do you know how old she is?
She's old.
I looked it
up. They
all
are.
Do you know how old I looked it up. Do you know how old she is?
I'm going to guess 28.
You're right. She's 28.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
10 years like older than the oldest high schooler.
See, I couldn't find anything about her. In fact, I couldn't find anything about any of these actors. But yeah, she looks old, right? Like they all do. And the only thing that's like saving them from their age, really, is like the film grain. But like you could tell these are older people.
They don't have to be high schoolers, Like there's nothing in the movie that needs them to be. And in fact, they should be older because that would not create this plot hole with this, how did they get into this club and how old are they, They didn't need to be high schoolers at all. I don't know why they were. But that aside, going into it. So you already mentioned that Art has this weird history with their father, and he was creeping her out because she sees him in a Halloween store. Well, the reason she's like really afraid of him is because the night her wings burned down and her room caught fire, she dreamed of Art the Clown in this bizarre dream sequence called Clown Cafe. It was like supposed to be a kids' TV show that turned creepy. It was about these happy clowns, and then, they unwrap a present and it's a heart in a box. And it's very Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. And it ends with Art killing everybody. And Sienna is there, and she's dressed like this kooky cartoon little girl. And she's terrified. All the other kids who are also like people her age, dressed as children. I thought this meant they were going to come up later and then get killed off. But no. These people are unrelated characters. They're just in her dream. And I don't know why they're like adults then, but whatever. And this is where I was like, this happens very early on in the movie, and I thought, okay, well, this is at least bold. I was open to it. I was like, where's this gonna go? They're kind of starting to be really different. They're setting themselves apart from the first movie and showing that they're planning to do more and they could do more. But it goes nowhere. It goes absolutely nowhere. It has nothing to do with anything else for the rest of the movie. She never has another dream about him. I don't know why she had this dream about him. Art seemed to know that she had this dream also when they meet in person. Because why else is he bugging her in particular? But once again, like, you're not really sure because Art doesn't have a purpose. Maybe he just does this to everybody. But how'd you feel about the Clown Cafe segment?
I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. I tried to understand it. It was entirely too long, was it not?
Oh my god, yeah, it was. The main clown girl sings a song that is 2 or 3 verses too long.
Yes.
It's like, all right.
Yes. It is very catchy, I will admit. But yeah, I don't get it. And then of course, they try to put a bookend on it and bring it up at the end of the movie. And it just makes no sense. And why are we pretending it does? I think you're right. I don't think Damien Leone had a clear vision for this movie. I think he's kind of making it up as he goes, which is fine, I guess. I think the majority of people that are into these movies will forgive him, but that's just why it's not my cup of tea.
That's why it's not good. That's why it
Yeah.
doesn't deserve to be 2 hours and 18 minutes.
Frankly, there's not a lot of slashers that do.
Yeah, right? But they don't have the gall that this movie does to be that long. The Clown Cafe segment I was into, but it ends with Art. You know, you knew it was going to end. Don't hug me, I'm scared. Kind of just something gross and bad was going to happen. And Art pulls out a Tommy gun and shoots the entire cast. And
Yes.
I thought that was so lame. Don't use a gun. You know, like you're in any slasher movie, the slasher should not use a gun. That's so cheap.
I agree.
And Art keeps using guns. He did that in the first movie too, and it was like, Art, don't use a gun.
This was your big critique. I remember that was a big critique.
Yeah, you're a slasher, not a shooter.
Yeah, I was not into it. It didn't do anything for me. It made no sense. And again, I'm not convinced they know what it meant.
No, it didn't mean anything. They just like were filling time. Yeah, I guess skipping way ahead, so much happened. Like I think a good half this movie goes by without too much happening. Like one guy at a Halloween shop gets killed, and that scene was hilarious because like they go into what is easily the biggest Halloween store I've ever seen in my life, in fiction or reality, and it's bustling. It is bustling. And Sienna goes downstairs to get these pair of wings she sees that are cool, and she goes back upstairs, and they're closing. There's not a soul in the entire place. There's one guy who works there, and then Art the Clown is there too. And it's like, where did everyone go?
Well, and again, I talked about it already, but the sunglasses sequence.
Yeah.
That long, awful bit. Oh my God.
Art cuts this guy's head off, and it's the worst effect. But I really enjoyed it, actually. They have his like plastic wax head blinking still. And so it's very much like, look at this cool mechanic we made. And I appreciate a practical mechanic, even if you can see that it's obviously an effect. I do appreciate it. I did too.
That. It's a fun one. It's honestly probably the most kind kill in the movie.
Well, yeah, other than the mother. There's so many kills, and there's some of them are so pointless that like we don't have to get into every single one. But...
Yet another gun kill too.
Yeah, he just shoots her, and it's like
unceremoniously killed.
Very unceremonious, especially considering how much time. Like she's one of the most developed characters in the movie. She just gets shot once.
Another really long sequence that I guess kind of ushers in the events of the last act of this movie is when Sienna finally gets to the Halloween party that she's been prepping for, and Brooke, her friend, puts Molly in her drink.
Dude, what were you thinking when this happened?
Why is this so long? Why am I watching? This is what happens. Brooke puts Molly in her drink. She is dancing, having a great time, looking at the colors. Then she has a panic attack and starts seeing the little clown girl. And she is just like, basically like, screw you about getting dosed by Molly. Or with Molly, by her friend. And then it's dropped. She's fine. She's not angry anymore. Find you a friend who you love so much that they can dose you with Molly and you're still riding in the car with them at the end of the night. But there was such a long sequence of her
just partying,
like feeling the party. And I was not here for the Molly sequence. It was stupid, and no.
It could have happened a little quicker. But you could say that about this entire movie. It could have happened quicker. It really was just like every scene was just a little too long. Like every single scene.
Oh, I should say the significance of that MDMA scene is that after she's dosed, right, she has that panic attack where she's seeing the little clown girl. And on the drive back to her house, because Brooke begrudgingly takes her home, even though she literally dosed her with Molly. But she's taking her home, and she gets this phone call from her brother, but it's not her brother. It's the little clown girl doing an impression of her brother to lure her to this old carnival. And of course, that's the one connection there, is that little clown girl was supposedly killed at this carnival. If Art did kill that little girl at this carnival years ago, and now she's like his familiar, watch like the third movie say that the only reason Art was killing all those people was because he wanted friends. It's gonna be something stupid like that. Like, oh, he's just killing for friends, you know? The little girl was his first, and that's why she's his little friend and follows him around, but that's what he's doing with all of them. Maybe that's what the clown cafe is all about, right? That they're all just hanging out at the clown cafe. And that's like the afterlife in
I
Art's head.
guess.
It's gonna be some stupid watch. Watch.
I won't want. I
It's gonna be
don't
the
want to
most
watch.
well, we're gonna get ready.
No.
Now we've already seen 2 of these movies. Like, I'm gonna watch them all now at this point.
I hate that though.
I know.
I hate
But
how
it is what it is.
we've sunk into it.
We have.
What a
We said we
curse.
never would, and look at us. Look at us. It was just there. It was there
It
on
really
Prime
was
Video.
just there, yeah.
It was so easy. I no longer are movies like this relegated to the back of a blockbuster.
No, yeah, they're the front of free
The front
Prime
and
Video
center.
of
Yeah.
should be Tubi. Yeah, no, this little girl is introduced to us in this scene after like right at the beginning of the movie after Art escapes from the events of the first movie. He goes to a laundromat to clean the blood off his clothes, and we see him like take his costume off and put it in a washing machine. And I first of all, I hated naked Art, like just in his underwear, because he's just like a man
I did
underneath
too.
the suit, and it's like,
He's just like, dude.
why is he just a dude? Keep the suit on and keep him like in this weird uncanny valley zone of like, is he a man? He's a clown, you know? Is that the same thing, or is he, you know? But no, he just takes his suit off. He's just like a guy with pink nipples, you know, like a normal ass dude, and I don't like that. But he starts seeing this little girl, and we know it's him seeing her because a guy at the laundromat wakes up while they're playing patty cake, and he only sees Art miming patty cake. So she's not really real, I guess. And then later on in the movie, Sienna and Jonathan can see her, and she is real. So
Yeah.
is she a figment of Art's imagination? Is she somehow she's supernatural, but Art isn't? Like, so is Art not supernatural? He is, obviously, but
Yeah, I guess it's something that they're building to. Hopefully, it's something that they're building to. I really hope they know where they're going with this. She's got mimic powers, I guess, as the end of the movie would suggest.
I guess, do you want to talk like in full about the first major kill on Halloween night? I mean, we kind of already have, but so Art's been just like, how long is this scene? Do you think? Like, it's like 10 minutes, isn't it? Like at least 10 minutes.
One of her best friends is killed.
Yeah, it feels so long. Regardless, he kills one of the best friends, and you know it was gonna happen because it's a slasher. But why does he? Does he just kill her because he kills, or is it because she's friends with Sienna? Like, it feels like he doesn't even know that she's friends with Sienna, and he just kills her. But oh my god, what a ridiculous! So what happens to this girl? She gets, she gets scalped, like pretty much right off the bat. She gets like flayed, like all the skin on like almost her entire body. Is it her whole body? It's like her entire back and most of her body.
Her whole back is skinned. He
Her
rips
whole,
off her.
she's flayed.
skin.
Yeah. Her arm is not only ripped off, but like broken in half, split down the middle, and then torn off. And her face is pulled off. And when I say her face, and he does this to a few people, not only is it just like the skin, like the front of the skull is pulled off this person. And if that happens to a person, that the front of their skull gets pulled off, they die instantaneously. And I don't believe anyone lives longer than instant death if that happens. But this girl ends up being more indestructible than Art. Easily. She's more unkillable than Art the Clown. Because she just keeps crawling around. I was like, wow, what a kill. And then he just like stabs her a bunch. He puts the arm through her stomach, I think. Like, just way overboard. Disembowels her, yeah. And it was like, okay, well, she's so dead, like just pieces of a corpse at this point. And then Art walks away, and she starts crawling towards the phone. She starts crawling towards the goddamn phone. Then Art returns with with salt. And for me, that was the ultimate moment. I was like, get the hell out of here. Get out of here.
Wait, what did he return with?
With salt and bleach, so he could pour it on her,
That's right.
and so it would just sting, I guess.
That's right, and he rubs it in.
He literally rubs salt in her wound. And, like, that was for me, like, This is so dumb. That's what I thought to myself. That's all I could think.
And then you're going to think, of course, she's going to die. And no. Mom walks in later on.
Later. Comes back home.
For her daughter.
And
Gets no answer.
Yeah, when she comes in, she goes upstairs and Art's like cut up her body even more. Like there's pieces of legs everywhere. And her mom's like screaming and screaming and screaming. And then she opens her eyes and says, Mom. Because she's still alive, even though she's literally in pieces at this point. So I'm starting to think one of Art's powers is he can make his victims immortal.
Yeah, or he maybe he knows how to dismember somebody so that they can live as long as...
That's not true.
No.
Look at her.
I know.
She's missing her face.
I just don't think this movie cares about logic or reason.
But at a certain point, when it's that goofy and over the top, at a certain point, like, all the kills are meaningless, because it's like, anything will happen. Right. There's no escape, there's no, like, struggle, it's just gonna happen.
Same thing with Art's whole thing. Like, he can put his brain back together, he can pop in somebody else's eye and use it as his own, he can get stabbed in the brain, he can get shot in the chest, but a beheading will do it, I guess. But then also it doesn't.
Yeah.
As we find out at the end of the... It's so dumb. It's so dumb. So it really means nothing, and there really is no incentive to watching a final movie, because how do you kill him?
Yeah. Well, okay, here's another problem I have with Art, is he is so unimposing, and there's no struggle whatsoever in any of the characters against him. Even Sienna, who is prophesized to kill him, when they first start fighting, he just tears her up. He throws her around. She can't do anything to him. There's no struggle at all against Art. And so it's like completely meaningless because he's once again not imposing. He's like this lanky, scrawny clown. Like Jason Voorhees is a beast of a man. Kane Hodder is huge. David Howard Thornton is like a thin guy. I'd like to have seen more of a run and a struggle or something, but there's no struggle and they die forever, and it's like, what is the point of all this? There's no sport. There's no sport in it, That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of jumped around a little bit.
But it doesn't matter if you jump around because this movie is incoherent.
No, it is. It's unfortunate because we've said it before. I'll say it again. There was potential, but maybe that's giving it too much credit because, again, the base of this movie, Terrifier, and before that, All Hallows Eve, they're not very good movies. And Art as a character, there's not a lot there. I look forward to the day Damien Leone has to do something else because I think he's better off taking the things that he learns from this franchise and applying them to a new venture. I really hope he doesn't just make 5 of these and that's his legacy. Yeah. That would suck.
He's taken this character far, but this character has no substance to him. And it's like, you don't have to take him this far. Like, you can get a new character that is a character. He does look cool. He is solid design, He's very proud of that, and I understand, and he should be, but we gotta move past that. Another thing about this movie, I feel like they start messing with Jonathan when he's in school, and they start tormenting this family, and yada, yada, yada. There, so many times in this movie, a character just sits there, just stands there for like 2 to 3 minutes and goes, as Art like does something gross and creepy and sadistic. And they don't do anything, they just stand there. And it's like to an infuriating degree of like, if you turned a corner, if you were in a school, and you turned a corner and there were 2 clowns playing with the guts of a possum, I would not stand there. I never would have stopped moving my feet. I would have turned right back around. But they just sit there and look at them. It happens so much.
There's several instances of that in this movie. So how do you feel about... Because we've basically gotten there, right?
Yeah. Molly happens. They end up at this evil carnival.
He goes to the carnival.
Whatever.
He's killed multiple times by both Sienna and her brother in a struggle at this carnival or in multiple struggles at this carnival. And of course, he just keeps coming back to life. Like I said, he's shot. He's stabbed in the head. He is probably stabbed again. I don't know. They kill him several times, and he keeps on moving. At one point, Art kills Sienna, though. After various struggles with Sienna, he actually gets her sword and kills her with it. He stabs her in the gut and throws her into like this underground water chamber. I don't fully understand
it's
why
like a
that's
figurative
there.
water chamber.
Right, right. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then she has this mysterious resurrection, I guess, just like him. And she comes out of the water
The sword
alive once
glows and
again.
heals her wounds.
Yep. There's like a electricity effect that looks like garbage.
Yeah, it does. It looks like something
And her
from
wound
Ghostbusters.
glows. Yes, it does. And that's when she rises. She overpowers Art, decapitates him. He gives her this rotten, toothy grin right before it, and she rescues Jonathan. And another instance of the protagonists doing nothing and just watching something happen, the little girl comes out at the end of the movie, and they watch her just like take his head away and leave. And they're just like fine with it.
The
They
whole
don't do
time I
anything
was
about
like,
it.
go behead that little girl. If you can
Yeah, they
behead
don't
Art,
her.
prevent that from happening, because you know it will
I
if
would
you let
punt
it.
that little girl.
I would have kept the head. I would have been like, we gotta put it in cement and sink it into the ocean.
Yes,
You can't
right?
just let
But
her
no.
take it.
But no, they don't. And then there's a post-credits scene where
Epilogue,
where Art and the little girl are having shawarma in a destroyed New York City with Iron Man and Thor. That's my favorite joke to make about post-credit scenes.
When it never
So
gets
stupid.
old, too.
No, but the post-credit scene is somehow even more vague than the entire film. We see this character named Victoria. She is a victim from the first movie. Was she the main girl in the first movie, or was she the talk show host in the first movie?
No, the talk show host was attacked by this girl. I don't think she was the main girl, though. I think she was like another girl in the first movie.
You're right.
But yeah, in the first movie, they do this horrible news interview bit at the beginning and end of the movie where like this person who is one of Art's victims just like eats who's like got a mangled face because Art like messed her up. She just like attacks and eats this person interviewing her, and you have no idea why, and it doesn't make any sense. And I thought they were gonna just completely ignore that in this movie. I thought they were gonna retcon it. I didn't think they were gonna talk about it, and then they brought it back up, and I was like, man. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, no, they really didn't. It made no difference. But now she's super involved in the lore, I guess, because we get this scene of her in an institution. We're introduced to this nurse character who is played by the girl that's singing the Clown Cafe song early on in the movie, and now she's humming the tune to Clown Cafe. And she has this coworker who's working the night shift with her, who is played by freaking Chris Jericho. Do you know who Chris Jericho is?
No.
Dude. Well, unfortunately, he's not a very good actor, so you probably just saw him as some like schmo in this movie. But he's a wrestling legend. I mean, he was a big deal in the WWE.
Oh, I see.
But anyway, she goes to check on her model patient because they talk about her, and that's how she describes Vicky. But Vicky is like gushing blood from her vagina and is rubbing blood all over the walls of the cell, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs and laughing and writing obscenities and saying obscenities. And when the nurse busts in, she sees all the blood, she freaks out, and she sees what I can only describe as, well, I was going to say baby Art, but it's not baby Art. It's literally Art's severed head, birthed from that woman's womb. She has pushed out Art's head, and it's alive, and it's looking around, and it's blinking. It's probably smiling, and the nurse screams, and that's the big post-credits scene.
And why? Yeah. I don't know how they're going to do something with that, but sure.
If my version of that sounded disjointed, it's because that's how disjointed it is. It's a horrible sequence. It's a terrible scene. It makes no sense. I don't know why Victoria, she writes Vicky plus art on the wall in blood. That's why I'm calling her Vicky. But I don't know why she pushes out his head from her womb. When I first saw that she was pregnant, because she has a pregnant belly and she's gushing blood, I thought for sure that she was going to have some sort of like Antichrist baby. But no, far worse. It's his head.
Yeah, and okay, you know. Yeah, I love that it's it's like a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest 50s psychiatric ward too. In every horror movie it is, regardless of what year it is. And I love that. I love seeing that that's still a thing. Nothing makes sense in this movie. There's still not really much purpose. Art took this sword from their house, and the sword was the sword that her dad gave her. And it just looks like this weird Greek short sword. And I guess Art knew about it, but why did he take it? Why did he bring it with him? Like, why does he know about it? What possible connection could Art the Clown have with this cheap sword? Like, I can't imagine a story where that isn't dumb and laughable.
Yeah, it's a frustrating ending because again, there was actually some good stuff about this movie, in my opinion. You know, I thought the first one was horrid, truly one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I didn't feel that way towards this movie. I know that sounds so harsh, but it's true. I didn't feel that way towards this movie. I felt that there was something happening here, right? I thought some of the kills were inspired. I thought they were interesting, at least visually. I thought that some of the direction was solid. The camera work was good. The editing was overall pretty good. I thought there was major improvements on the character work, which is not saying much, but it's at least saying that, you know, he did improve. But ultimately, it's a pretty sloppy movie. I think it's closer to what I would call full potential for a movie like this would be, but it's not there. And maybe I'm just not a fan of the grindhouse genre. Maybe you're not either.
Yeah, I guess.
But story-wise, this just isn't there. And I don't know, storytelling is universal. So I don't.
I agree. I
probably liked it a little more than you did.
I think you definitely liked it more than I did. I'm sure you did. This was one like I tried to like, and then after I watched it, I was like, okay, all right, well, it had promise, it had problems, and then the next day passed, and the day after that passed, and I kept thinking about this movie, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, you know what? No, I don't like this movie. Like, it got worse as I remembered it. Upon reflection, I was like, yeah.
I applaud its growth.
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, I do like seeing the production that is this character, at least, kind of gain momentum, gain value, and I'm glad that happened. It is novel to see. It's very interesting. A load of crap, though, this movie. Like, once again, I could not recommend this to anybody in good conscience.
Well, also, you just look like a freak if you recommend this.
Oh, yeah, like, if you recommend this to someone and then they watch it, like, they're never going to talk to you again.
Especially if this is, like, their first foray into horror.
Oh, my God, like, yeah. Don't be sadistic.
This is not an introductory movie.
No, this is late game, and honestly, masochistic. If you hate yourself, watch this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well,
I think I've said everything I have to say.
I can't. There's probably I could spend the rest of my life talking about this movie, but I've said enough. I've got it out there, so I feel like a weight is off my shoulders now. So
I feel like I just went to the gym.
Yeah, exactly. It feels good to have gotten that off my chest. Thank you for listening, Adrian.
Yeah, no, thank you for listening to me.
Well, we did this. That's going in the memory banks. I'm putting that on the shelf, you know? It's in the logs now.
We did it.
Okay. We did do this. But Damien Leone really did that. So, well, thank you for joining me, Adrian.
Yes, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening and watching that. Goodbye.